Imagine a planet so deadly that no known species has survived more than a few hours on its surface. Acidic rain corrodes anything it touches, while unrelenting storms tear through the barren landscape. Known as Carthox 9, it was classified as one of the most hostile worlds by the Galactic Council, a place where no amount of preparation had ever been enough. Yet, when the Galactic Council labeled Carthox 9 as uninhabitable, humanity stepped up with a surprising response. They volunteered to scout it. But they didn't bring high-tech survival gear or advanced environmental shields. No, humans arrived with tents, sleeping bags, and something they called trail mix. Alien officials were dumbfounded. Why were these humans so relaxed about a mission considered suicidal? As the Galactic Council looked on, both fascinated and horrified, humans prepared to set foot on the deadly world with a casual attitude, wide grins, and even a campfire. The Council whispered predictions of inevitable disaster, but the humans appeared ready to face the planet's wrath with little more than sheer audacity and a sense of adventure. What could possibly drive a species to approach a brutal environment with enthusiasm? In the control chamber of the Galactic Council's orbiting station, a group of alien diplomats and scientists gathered, their faces lit by the holographic projections of Carthox 9's surface. The desolate world below them spun slowly, a bleak wasteland marked by acidic rivers, toxic gases, and relentless storms. Its reputation for hostility was so well known that even highly advanced species considered any attempt to explore it a fool's errand. Yet today, something unprecedented was happening. A team of humans had volunteered to investigate the planet, equipped with what the Council deemed primitive camping supplies. The room was filled with a mix of baffled concern and professional curiosity. For most, this was the first time witnessing the human tendency to defy reason itself. The Grand Envoy, a dignified figure with translucent skin and shimmering bioluminescent patterns, cleared his throat. "Are we certain that these humans understand the conditions on Carthox 9? He asked, addressing the assembly. "They bring tents, blankets, food they call trail mix. Do they genuinely believe these items are sufficient?" An alien scientist stepped forward, nervously tapping his thin, clawed fingers together. "The humans insist that they are aware, Grand Envoy. They have referred to this mission as a camping trip." He paused, clearly perplexed, before continuing. "They spoke of marshmallows and sing-alongs. Their leader, Captain Lila Grant, even requested that each participant bring their favorite snack." A ripple of confusion spread through the room. Camping? Snacks? The gathered aliens struggled to understand why any species would approach Carthox 9, a planet that required extreme shielding and advanced survival equipment, with the same enthusiasm as a pleasant day trip. One senior counselor, his vibrant blue skin now tinged with a disapproving shade of green, looked around. "This is lunacy. Our analyses suggest that even with our most advanced bioshields, they won't last long. Perhaps they misunderstood our warning." A junior diplomat, known for her studies in xenopsychology, leaned forward, intrigued. "I don't believe it's a misunderstanding," she said, her voice contemplative. "In my studies, I've observed that humans seem to have a curious relationship with hardship. They call it arrowing it. Many even seek out dangerous or uncomfortable environments voluntarily for recreation." There was a pause, and then a chorus of astonished whispers swept through the room. Aliens from across the galaxy were familiar with the concept of exploration, but treating hostile environments as leisure activities, this was beyond reason. Meanwhile, on the observation screens, the Council could see the human landing shuttle descending to Carthox 9's surface. The shuttle hatch opened and the team emerged, unfazed by the harsh conditions. They unloaded tarps, tents, fire starters, and most puzzling of all, bags labeled s'mores ingredients. The sight of humans laughing and exchanging jokes while setting up camp on a death world sent the Council scientists into an uproar. One scientist, barely able to process the scene, stammered, "They are treating this as entertainment? They call it camping? Are they truly aware of the danger?" The Grand Envoy shook his head, a mixture of exasperation and fascination in his gaze. "It appears so. Humans willingly seek discomfort for pleasure." On the screen, Captain Lila Grant led her team with a grin, instructing them to Stake down the tents firmly, and to make sure the marshmallows don't get squashed." The council members observed the unfolding scene with stunned horror as the humans continued their preparations, seemingly oblivious to, or perhaps defiant of, the planet's dangers. The council's chief medical officer, a xenobiologist with expertise on human physiology, added grimly, "They have no advanced protective gear, nothing that would allow them to withstand the acidic rains or toxic winds. Do they truly expect tarps and tents to protect them?" In response, another counselor muttered, "Perhaps they don't expect it. Perhaps they just don't care." His eyes widened, as if he had stumbled upon some disturbing truth. Just then, an alien diplomat looked over at the Grand Envoy. "Sir, do you believe we should recall them?" The Grand Envoy hesitated. Calling off the mission would be the logical course, yet watching the humans had stirred an inexplicable fascination. "No," he decided, his tone both cautious and intrigued. "Let them proceed. I want to observe this human resilience for myself." The aliens continued to watch as the humans assembled their campsite in a barren, rocky valley. They pitched tents, secured tarps, and even set up a small fire, all while chatting and laughing. When one human pulled out a guitar and strummed a few chords, the council could hardly believe their eyes. The baffled council members whispered among themselves, sharing their bewilderment at the humans' actions. How could a species approach such obvious peril with nothing more than a smile and a tune? As they continued watching, they noted with growing disbelief that the humans showed no signs of panic or apprehension, only determination, and even more inexplicably, joy. For the aliens, trained from birth to treat dangerous environments with solemn caution, humanity's carefree attitude was incomprehensible. It defied every known survival protocol. And yet, a deep, gnawing curiosity began to replace their skepticism. A junior officer voiced what they were all beginning to suspect: perhaps they know something we don't. In stunned silence, the council watched as the humans laughed, shared snacks, and prepared for what they saw as an exciting challenge. All around the control room, every alien's gaze was fixed on the screens. Today, they would witness whether the humans' strange approach was bravery, ignorance, or perhaps some blend of both. The human shuttle touched down on Carthox 9 with a soft hiss as the landing thrusters stabilized it against the planet's relentless winds. Inside the Galactic Council's observation room, alien scientists and diplomats leaned closer to their screens, each holding their breath in anticipation. They were fully prepared to witness what they assumed would be humanity's immediate retreat, or more likely, a quick call for emergency extraction. Yet, as the hatch opened, the aliens were met with a scene that left them stunned. The humans stepped out, unhurried and joking with one another, as if they were arriving for a weekend getaway, rather than an expedition to one of the most hostile worlds ever catalogued. Captain Lila Grant, a woman known for her unflinching optimism, led the way. She took a deep breath, squinting into the distance, as if appraising the barren landscape with something close to admiration. "All right, team," she called out with a grin, her voice cutting through the gusty winds. "You know the drill. Let's get camp set up before the rain hits. Tents up, bags down, marshmallows prepped." The aliens, observing this from the safety of their station, were dumbfounded. Tents, marshmallows. On a planet where even advanced biotents would struggle to withstand the acidic conditions, the humans were setting up makeshift shelters and planning to roast sugar over an open flame. Dr. Veladrin, one of the council's leading scientists, blinked multiple times, as if hoping that would help him comprehend what he was seeing. This cannot be serious. They are aware that acidic rain will fall in less than an hour, yes? A junior officer at the back of the room replied hesitantly. According to the briefing notes, they were informed. They seemed unconcerned. Meanwhile, on the screen, Lila's partner, Mike, had already set up a portable stove, and a few other humans were unloading an assortment of supplies from the shuttle. Tarps, thick blankets, rolls of something called duct tape, and curious packages labeled trail mix and hot cocoa. Another human, Jack, had taken out a guitar and started tuning it, drawing laughter from his crewmates as they began arranging stones in a loose circle, a makeshift fire pit. Their cheerful, relaxed demeanor was so bizarre to the aliens that they simply stared, transfixed. The aliens' minds raced to make sense of it all, struggling to understand why humans would approach such a dangerous assignment with joy. An alien diplomat turned to his colleague, his multiple eyes wide with disbelief. They're treating this mission as if it were a recreational outing. This camping behavior. They act like they're here to relax. Back on Carthox 9, the humans seemed to be enjoying themselves. Lila walked around, checking everyone's progress as they secured the tents and staked down the tarps. She occasionally called out playful instructions, as if supervising a group of friends at a beach rather than a Death World expedition. The team seemed remarkably well prepared, yet in a way that no one from the Galactic Council had expected. "Better get those marshmallows ready," she quipped to one of her team members who was busy unpacking snacks. "We're in for a show tonight." One of the Council's security officers, watching this unfold from the observation deck, was visibly agitated. "This behavior defies logic. Even our best equipment would need constant recalibration just to endure this atmosphere for a few hours. And they brought sweets?" A senior scientist, struggling to process the scene, muttered under his breath, "Perhaps humans lack the instinct for self-preservation." Captain Lila's voice crackled over the observation speakers as she held up a metal thermos and took a long sip. Nothing like a hot drink on a brisk alien evening. Warms you up from the inside out. Her team chuckled, raising their own cups of coffee and hot chocolate in a toast. The aliens in the observation room could scarcely believe their eyes as the humans huddled together, sharing snacks and laughter as though they were immune to the hostile world around them. A communications officer turned to the Grand Envoy, desperation in his voice. "Sir, should we intervene? Perhaps they don't realize the true danger they're in." The Grand Envoy shook his head, his gaze fixed on the screen. "No, they know. They've been fully briefed. And yet, they proceed as if this is all a game." He paused, an unreadable expression crossing his face. "I believe we should continue observing. There is something we do not understand here." As the humans continued setting up, an alien scientist noted that their equipment was far simpler than the Council's standard issue, and it raised a quiet buzz of bewilderment. Instead of advanced biotents or atmospheric regulators, the humans were using tarps and poles, staking them directly into the acidic ground. One alien technician shook his head. "They're not following any known survival protocols. Our models suggest they'll barely last an hour." Meanwhile, on the surface, Lila organized her team into small groups, giving each member a task to complete the camp setup. Mike and Jack were building the fire, while another group set up tents in a way that offered a modest windbreak. Despite the gusty conditions, the humans worked with an ease and confidence that was nothing short of shocking. As they watched, a sudden gust of wind picked up, sending loose pebbles flying. The aliens gasped, expecting the humans to take cover, but instead, Lila just shouted, "Hold on to those stakes, folks. Double up if you need to. This place has got some kick." Her team laughed, securing their tents with practiced skill, clearly treating the conditions as little more than a challenging breeze. The alien council members exchanged looks of utter confusion. For them, the only logical response to such a harsh environment would be extreme caution, or even terror. Yet these humans seemed to enjoy the obstacles, treating each new problem as something to solve with a laugh and a bit of ingenuity. A council member spoke up, his voice low and filled with disbelief. "They act as though they are immune to fear." Another alien diplomat, equally puzzled, replied, "Or perhaps they have adapted to it. They certainly seem comfortable, even in the face of clear and present danger." The aliens watched in awe as the humans, smiling and working together seamlessly, prepared themselves for what would come next. There was no panic, no apprehension, only excitement, curiosity, and the kind of camaraderie that baffled the Council's members to their very core. As the sun dipped below Carthox 9's jagged horizon, painting the acidic clouds in streaks of dark orange, the humans finished setting up their camp and gathered around their small fire. Captain Lila held up her thermos in a final toast, her voice carrying a cheerfulness that left the alien observers speechless. "To good friends, good stories, and good adventures," she declared. Her team echoed the cheer, and for a moment they could have been on any other camping trip back on Earth. The Galactic Council's scientists, diplomats, and officials stared, unable to reconcile the stark contradiction before them. Here was a species that met the unknown not with fear, but with excitement. Instead of protocol, they relied on ingenuity. Instead of caution, they found strength in each other's presence. A young alien officer whispered to himself, echoing what they all were starting to suspect. Perhaps this is why they survive. In a room filled with the most logical, rational minds in the galaxy, the humans had become something of an enigma, a puzzle wrapped in strange customs and boundless confidence. And as the council continued to watch, each alien could feel an unspoken question beginning to take shape in their minds. Had they finally encountered a species whose strength came not from technology or caution, but from something far less tangible and infinitely more profound? The humans had been on Carthox 9 for only a short while when the first real challenge arrived. The Galactic Council's sensors picked up signs of an impending storm front moving toward the camp, a storm notorious for its acidic rain. For any other species, this would have been cause for immediate evacuation. But as the Council prepared to issue a warning, they observed the humans' reaction and were left dumbfounded. Captain Lila Grant stood at the edge of the camp, scanning the horizon as she noticed the incoming clouds. She squinted, then turned back to her team, giving a quick, cheerful shout. "All right, folks. We've got some rain on the way. Let's get those tarps up and secure everything tight." The aliens in the observation room watched as the humans hustled to cover their gear with waterproof tarps and checked the stakes on their tents, securing them against the rising winds. They moved with practiced ease, adjusting and fortifying their campsite without a hint of panic. To them, this was just part of the adventure. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Dr. Veladrin, one of the senior scientists, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "This storm could melt through most of our standard equipment in minutes. Do they really believe a few tarps will keep them safe?" The alien technician beside him, who had been analyzing the human supplies, replied with a resigned shake of his head. "Apparently, yes. They seem to treat every environmental hazard as a minor inconvenience." As the storm clouds drew closer, acidic rain began to fall, sizzling as it hit the rocks around the camp. The humans were unfazed. They simply huddled beneath their tarps, pulling their supplies closer to avoid the splashing drops. Lila and her team shared snacks, made jokes, and even took turns telling stories to pass the time. Inside the observation room, the council members watched with increasing horror as acidic droplets hit the tarps, creating faint puffs of smoke. The aliens fully expected the humans to abandon the camp, but instead they remained steadfast, laughing and talking as if nothing were out of the ordinary. One of the alien diplomats, unable to contain his disbelief, muttered, "Are they immune to fear, or simply oblivious to danger?" A nearby scientist who had spent years studying human psychology spoke up. "It's neither. Humans have this peculiar tendency to downplay threats, particularly when they're together. They often treat dangerous situations as bonding experiences." Another council member shook his head, bewildered. "This is madness. No rational species would ever act this way, to treat such peril with humor." On the planet's surface, the humans continued to handle the acidic rain with surprising ease. When a gust of wind blew, threatening to pull a tarp loose, a team member quickly secured it with more stakes and a handful of duct tape. They worked together seamlessly, displaying an adaptability that left the council both baffled and increasingly impressed. The storm eventually passed, leaving only a few scattered drops sizzling on the ground around them. Captain Lila stood up, brushing herself off and stretching her arms above her head. "All right, that wasn't too bad. Team, take 5 and let's enjoy some well-earned marshmallows." As the humans pulled out their marshmallow sticks and gathered around a freshly lit campfire, the alien observers were at a loss. A campfire? Here? On a planet known for its volatile air composition and frequent eruptions of toxic gases? The council members could hardly process it. To see a campfire complete with humans roasting marshmallows and laughing seemed almost surreal. Their reports on humans had noted their odd customs, but to see it in action on Carthox 9 of all places was a sight none had anticipated. Another counselor, frustrated and thoroughly bewildered, spoke up. This behavior, it defies reason. They should be retreating, seeking shelter in their shuttle. Instead, they're relaxing. The Grand Envoy raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. Let them continue. Perhaps there is something to be learned here. Not long after the storm, another challenge arose. Tremors began to shake the ground beneath the humans' camp, a planetary phenomenon Carthox 9 was known for. Fissures cracked open, releasing streams of noxious gas. Once again, the Council braced for what they assumed would be the humans' inevitable call for extraction. But to their shock, Captain Lila and her team simply donned gas masks, casually handed out as if they were standard camping gear. They adjusted the position of their campfire and continued as if the toxic gases were nothing more than a passing inconvenience. Inside the observation room, a stunned silence filled the air. One of the Council's senior xenobiologists stared at the screens, speechless. They brought gas masks. They anticipated this. Yes, agreed another scientist, almost reluctantly, but what kind of species considers toxic gas just another part of the experience? The humans, meanwhile, seemed to be enjoying the challenge. Lila took charge, giving out quick instructions to ensure everyone's safety while still maintaining a lighthearted atmosphere. All right, team, masks on, stay close, and if you see any weird-looking smoke, just give it a wide berth. They moved through the fissure-riddled terrain, carefully observing their surroundings and taking samples, all while treating the deadly gases with the same caution one might use around a backyard barbecue. At one point, a human named Jack, who had been diligently taking atmospheric readings, leaned over to Lila with a grin. This is definitely going in the most extreme camping trips journal, he joked. Back in the observation room, an alien officer could no longer contain himself. They're joking about it? The Council's diplomatic advisor, a creature known for his calm demeanor, was equally taken aback. Their approach to danger is incomprehensible. They treat every threat as an opportunity for humor or teamwork. The next escalation came in the form of an unexpected planet-wide tremor, one so intense that it set off alarms across the observation room. The ground around the humans' camp cracked and shook, sending rocks tumbling and clouds of dust into the air. Alien analysts quickly calculated the safest escape route, but before they could relay the information, Lila's voice crackled over the speakers. Team, we've got ourselves a little earthquake. Grab onto something sturdy and ride it out. To the Council's disbelief, the humans braced themselves, laughing and cheering as they held on to each other and their makeshift camp structures. Their reaction wasn't one of panic, but exhilaration. They shouted words of encouragement to each other, seemingly treating the tremor as a thrilling experience rather than a life-threatening event. One of the Council's senior leaders shook his head in sheer amazement. Do they view this as a source of excitement? Another alien, who had studied human culture, offered an explanation. Humans have an unusual tendency to bond over shared challenges. They see danger not as a deterrent, but as an opportunity to come together and grow stronger. As the tremor subsided, the humans let out a cheer, clapping each other on the back and grinning as they surveyed the aftermath. There was a sense of camaraderie among them that was both unsettling and oddly inspiring to the alien onlookers. Captain Lila, still grinning, wiped dust from her face and called out, "All right, team, looks like the worst is over. Let's regroup and see what samples we can collect from those new fissures." The Council members were silent as they watched the humans, now visibly dirtied and a little bruised, but no less enthusiastic, setting out to examine the new terrain created by the tremors. Their resilience, adaptability, and, most of all, their sheer enjoyment of the experience left the aliens speechless. One alien scientist, who had been highly skeptical at the start of the mission, finally broke the silence. Perhaps we have underestimated them. The Grand Envoy nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. Indeed, they approach danger with a mindset we have never encountered. To them, every obstacle is simply part of the journey. The Council continued to observe, now no longer merely fascinated but beginning to feel something else. A deep, unspoken respect. For while the humans' behavior defied logic, It was undeniable that they had survived, no, thrived, on a planet that should have destroyed them. Their laughter, teamwork, and fearless attitude spoke of a strength that went beyond any technology or protocol. And as the day came to a close, the council members exchanged glances, realizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary. Perhaps they wondered the greatest asset of this seemingly primitive species was not their technology or training, but their spirit. Back in the observation room, a heavy silence had settled over the Galactic Council members. They were no longer leaning in with wide-eyed skepticism. Instead, they sat back in their seats, contemplating the scene before them with expressions of shock, confusion, and perhaps a touch of reverence. For hours, they had watched humans endure Carthox 9's brutal conditions as if it were a challenging yet thrilling recreational outing. The Grand Envoy, who had been closely monitoring the humans' progress, finally broke the silence. Our reports on humans described them as resilient, yes, but nothing could have prepared us for this. One of the junior scientists, still bewildered, replied, "Resilience doesn't even begin to describe it. They face deadly situations with laughter and camaraderie. They act as though the danger is nothing more than part of their bonding experience." Another council member, who had initially dismissed the humans' mission as folly, looked up thoughtfully. "In all my years, I have never encountered a species that approaches adversity in this way. For us, survival is a matter of precision, of caution. We follow strict protocols, plan meticulously, and avoid risk wherever possible." He paused, his face reflecting a profound realization. Yet these humans seemed to thrive on uncertainty. The Council's head of research, a stoic and highly analytical alien known for his logic-driven perspective, was also beginning to reevaluate his stance. For humans, it appears that danger itself is an opportunity, a challenge to overcome, rather than something to evade. They adapt to the environment rather than attempting to control it entirely. He paused, looking around at his colleagues. "Perhaps we have misunderstood what it means to survive." The Grand Envoy nodded slowly. "Indeed, humans possess something intangible, a force that allows them to face the impossible without hesitation." He turned to the xenopsychologist, who had been observing humanity for years. "What do you make of this?" The xenopsychologist cleared her throat, visibly grappling with her own astonishment. "I believe humans derive strength from each other. They share the burden of hardship, finding joy even in difficult situations. This camaraderie, it's unlike anything I've observed in other species." She hesitated, then added, "I've read that humans view life itself as an adventure, even with all its dangers. They are drawn to it." The council members murmured amongst themselves, each grappling with this revelation. They had always valued logic, planning, and caution as the ultimate survival tools. Humanity, however, seemed to embody the opposite. They approached hardship with humor, teamwork, and a strange sense of curiosity that was beyond rational comprehension. One of the younger diplomats, who had long admired humanity's boldness from afar, leaned forward. "In their eyes, what we consider perilous is simply life. To them, the unknown is a chance to explore, to learn, to grow. They seem to believe that nothing is truly insurmountable." The senior scientist, still reeling from the sight of humans laughing amidst acid rains and volcanic gases, muttered, "It's as if they view the very idea of survival differently. For us, it is a matter of preserving life at all costs, minimizing risk. For them, it seems to mean experiencing life to its fullest, regardless of the danger." The xenopsychologist nodded. "I believe that's precisely it. Humans face challenges head-on, and they grow stronger from each experience. They don't simply survive, they endure, they adapt, they find meaning in their trials." The Grand Envoy listened to his colleague's reflections, his expression one of deep contemplation. Finally, he addressed the room. "We've encountered countless species, each with their own strengths. But humanity's resilience, no, their spirit, is unlike anything we've known. They seem to find purpose in struggle. They grow in adversity, not because they have to, but because they want to." One of the council members shifted uneasily, voicing a thought that had been lurking in the minds of many. "Do you think we've been wrong to dismiss humans as reckless?" The room fell silent. It was a question no one had dared to ask before, but now it felt inevitable. For centuries, the Galactic Council had operated on principles of caution and calculated risk, believing that only careful planning and advanced technology could secure survival. Humanity's approach was so contrary to this mindset that it seemed at first like mere recklessness. Yet here they were, defying every expectation, thriving on a planet no other species would dare touch. The Grand Envoy finally spoke, his tone both somber and respectful. Perhaps we have underestimated them. What we dismissed as recklessness may in fact be their greatest strength. They face the unknown willingly, even joyfully. In doing so, they expand their boundaries, and ours as well. Another counselor added, if we truly seek to understand resilience, perhaps we must rethink our own strategies. Humans do not merely survive, they flourish. They embrace hardship, and through it they find strength. There was a long pause as the counselors processed this idea. It was a radical notion, one that called into question their most fundamental beliefs. To adopt even a fraction of humanity's mindset would require a paradigm shift, a willingness to see risk not as something to be avoided, but as a path to growth. Finally, the xenopsychologist broke the silence. I propose we study humanity's approach in greater depth. They have much to teach us, it seems. Not about technology, but about the strength of the spirit. The Grand Envoy nodded in agreement. Yes, perhaps humanity has shown us a new path forward, one where we do not fear the unknown, but embrace it. In that moment, the Galactic Council realized that humanity's spirit, one that found joy in adversity and purpose in exploration, was not something they could replicate through technology or training. It was something intrinsic, a quality that could not be engineered or programmed. As they continued to watch the humans on Carthox 9, now settling down for the night and sharing stories around a flickering campfire, the Council's perception of them shifted from curiosity to admiration. These beings were fearless, not because they lacked understanding, but because they saw challenges as a means of growth. The Grand Envoy, watching the humans laugh and toast their marshmallows under the alien sky, spoke softly, almost to himself. We have learned much from their technology, their ingenuity, but perhaps in the end, their greatest gift to the galaxy is not their machines, but their spirit. In the coming days, the Council would convene to discuss new protocols, ones that valued resilience not just as a matter of survival, but as a path to discovery. They would rethink their approach to exploration, inspired by humanity's example. And though the aliens knew they could never fully emulate the humans' audacious spirit, they resolved to incorporate a touch of that courage into their own missions. For in humanity's defiance of the impossible, they had found a glimpse of something eternal. The Galactic Council would no longer simply observe humans from afar. They would learn from them, honoring the strength that lay not in their technology, but in their hearts. The humans had proven their endurance repeatedly, facing Carthox 9's acidic rains, toxic winds, and violent tremors with a casual bravery that left the Galactic Council in awe. But, as the expedition continued, the Council's sensors detected an even greater threat approaching, a massive planet-wide storm, one so fierce it was expected to tear across the entire region with destructive force. Inside the Council's observation chamber, alarms blared, warning lights flashing as data from the planet rolled in. Alien technicians scrambled, updating their readings and running simulations. The storm's acidic winds, lightning, and toxic gas clouds were estimated to overwhelm the humans' camp in mere minutes. It was clear that, in all likelihood, even the humans would be unable to withstand this natural fury. The Grand Envoy, recognizing the severity of the situation, turned to his team. Open a channel to Captain Grant immediately. We'll call for an extraction. If they don't leave now, they won't survive this. Back on Carthox 9, Captain Lila Grant and her team were already preparing as they saw the dark storm front sweeping toward them. Instead of panicking, the humans worked quickly and efficiently, securing tents, collecting samples, and bracing for impact. They didn't wait for directions from the Council, they simply acted. The communication channel crackled to life. Captain Grant, this is the Galactic Council. You must evacuate immediately. The storm approaching is unprecedented in size and ferocity. Your equipment will not withstand it." Captain Grant, holding her ground against the rising winds, looked up and responded with a calm, steady voice. "Thank you, Council, but we'll hold here for a bit longer. We've prepared for this. Our team knows the risks, and we're seeing this through." The Council members exchanged glances of alarm. Surely she couldn't mean to ride out the storm. But as the Council watched, the humans braced themselves, doubling up their tarps, reinforcing their tents with duct tape, and digging in with grim determination. It was clear that they intended to face the storm head-on. The first gusts of wind tore through the camp, nearly uprooting the tents. Acidic droplets began to fall, sizzling as they made contact with anything exposed. Lila's team huddled together, securing their equipment, while Jack, the team's designated humorist, shouted over the roar of the storm, "Well, I always wanted a front-row seat to an alien hurricane." The Council watched with horror as lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the humans huddled under their tarps, laughter ringing out even as the winds howled. Each gust and flash seemed only to fuel their determination. The alien observers had seen many species face adversity, but never with such defiance, such joy. Another counselor muttered in awe, "They laugh in the face of death. Is it ignorance or something deeper?" Meanwhile, the storm intensified. The winds now reached speeds that would shred most standard survival gear, but the humans continued to hold their ground, adjusting their setup, using their bodies to shield one another. Even as the acidic rain bit into the outer layers of their tarps, they worked as a unit, passing supplies, securing stakes, and supporting each other against the fierce gusts. One human, struggling to secure a flapping corner of tarp, shouted, "Could use a hand here!" Immediately, two others dove in to help, securing the corner with zip ties and a strip of duct tape. Their improvisation was astonishingly effective. Every time a new problem arose, they adapted, quickly, creatively, and with an energy that stunned the Council. In the observation chamber, the Grand Envoy watched, his expression unreadable. To see such unity in the face of catastrophe was a revelation. He turned to his colleagues, his voice low. "They are not simply enduring this storm, they are mastering it." At that moment, a new complication arose. A fissure opened nearby, spewing toxic gases into the air around the camp. The humans acted immediately, pulling on gas masks and moving their equipment away from the fissure, treating it with the same caution and casual expertise they'd shown toward every other danger. Lila directed her team with precision. "Move the supplies to higher ground. Stick together and watch your footing." Back in the control room, an alien scientist turned to his colleague, shaking his head in disbelief. "They face each new hazard as if it were merely a minor inconvenience. This is unprecedented." The humans, though weary, continued to fight the elements. They set up new windbreaks, created makeshift anchors with whatever was at hand, and even managed to restart their campfire once the worst of the acidic rain had passed. Their teamwork was flawless, each person acting as part of a cohesive unit. Through every surge of the storm, they stayed calm, shouting words of encouragement, cheering each other on as they overcame each new obstacle. At one point, as the winds finally began to subside, Lila's voice came through the channel, sounding almost amused. "All right, team, looks like the worst is over. Who's ready to toast a victory marshmallow?" To the Council, this was incomprehensible. These humans had just endured a storm that would have driven most species to the brink of collapse, and now they were celebrating? To treat such an ordeal as a cause for cheer, it was unfathomable. The aliens in the control room watched, deeply moved, as the humans laughed, high-fived, and even started roasting marshmallows over the last embers of their campfire. Their gear was battered, their faces were streaked with sweat and grime, but their spirits were as unbreakable as ever. One counselor, previously skeptical of humanity's methods, now watched with a profound respect. Perhaps they are more than simply resilient. Perhaps they are indomitable. The Grand Envoy nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the humans' campfire. They have endured what should have been impossible. They face the unknown, not with fear, but with joy. They are unlike any species we have known. The humans laughing and chatting as if nothing unusual had happened, seemed to glow with a sense of accomplishment. They had conquered Carthox Nine's deadliest storm, not through advanced technology or impenetrable armor, but through their sheer willpower, unity, and a profound, unshakable optimism. The Council had come to observe an experiment, expecting to witness humanity's limits. Instead, they had seen something far more powerful, humanity's boundless courage. Each counselor was left with a new understanding, a humbling realization that humanity's strength lay not in their tools, but in their hearts. As the observation continued, the Grand Envoy finally broke the silence. Transmit a message to Captain Grant. Inform her that the Galactic Council would like to commend her and her team, and that we have much to learn from them. The message was relayed to Captain Lila, who received it with a bemused smile. Turning to her team, she shared the news. Well, folks, it seems the Galactic Council is impressed. Guess that means we earned ourselves a little galactic street cred. Her team erupted in laughter, exchanging proud grins as they raised their thermoses in a toast. To adventure, Lila declared, her voice filled with warmth. To friends, to challenges, and to never backing down. The council members watched this display of unity, of camaraderie, and felt a shift within themselves. For the first time, they saw that survival was not simply a matter of caution and protocol. It was a matter of spirit, of determination, and of finding purpose in adversity. As the humans prepared to rest, surrounded by the scars of the storm they had survived, the council knew that they would never view resilience the same way again. The humans had faced Carthox 9, a planet of death and danger, and had emerged victorious, not because of their technology, but because of their unbreakable spirit. For the Galactic Council, this encounter would mark the beginning of a new era. They had discovered a strength that transcended logic, a force that defied every calculation. And from that day forward, the Council would remember humanity's courage, not as recklessness, but as a gift, a profound resilience that could light even the darkest corners of the galaxy. As the storm finally passed, and the first light of dawn broke over Carthox 9's scorched alien landscape, the humans emerged from their tents. They were exhausted, covered in soot, dirt, and acidic rain residue, but their spirits were as high as ever. They laughed, stretched, and exchanged weary but triumphant smiles. It was clear they had endured not just a battle with nature, but a shared experience that had brought them closer together. Back on the Galactic Council's observation station, the aliens watched with a newfound reverence. The humans had done the impossible, not by following any formal protocol or advanced technological advantage, but through sheer grit, humor, and unity. The Grand Envoy turned to his colleagues, each of whom was still processing what they had witnessed. He addressed the council with a quiet, thoughtful tone. We have witnessed something rare. Humanity has shown us a strength we could not quantify, a resilience of spirit, a power that lies in their unity, their ability to face danger with unwavering resolve. One council member, who had previously criticized humanity as reckless, nodded, clearly humbled. It is as if they have a bond, one that transcends logic or survival. They face threats together, with laughter and shared purpose, as if they find meaning in the struggle itself. The xenopsychologist, who had spent years studying humanity's cultural nuances, offered her perspective. I believe that this is humanity's true strength. They don't face adversity alone. Each human draws courage from those beside them, and in doing so, they become greater than the sum of their parts. For them, facing hardship is not a burden. It is an opportunity to grow. Another counselor, previously skeptical, spoke up, his tone now filled with respect. We focus on survival as a solitary endeavor, relying on technology and protocol. But perhaps we have missed the greater lesson. Perhaps true resilience lies in something far simpler, yet infinitely more profound. The Grand Envoy nodded, his gaze thoughtful. Indeed, we have relied on technology, on rigid protocol. But humanity has shown us that survival is not just about preserving life. It is about finding meaning, strength, and connection, even in the face of unimaginable odds. As they continued to watch the humans on Carthox 9, the council members could see that their camaraderie was genuine, their laughter unforced. These beings had endured a storm that would have destroyed most advanced equipment, yet they treated it as a challenge to be shared and celebrated. Captain Lila Grant, the human leader, took a long breath, surveying the landscape as the skies cleared. She exchanged a glance with her team and then, with a slight smile, activated her comlink. "This is Captain Lila Grant of the Human Expedition Team, reporting that the mission was a success," she announced proudly, her voice carrying a warmth that resonated even across the great distance to the Galactic Council station. "We've got our samples, our data, and a few new scars to remember it by. Couldn't ask for a better team or a better adventure." Back on the station, the council members exchanged looks, moved by her words. The aliens, who had expected to see fear and exhaustion, instead saw pride and satisfaction. This mission had not just tested the humans physically, it had brought them closer, strengthened their bonds, and left them with memories they would cherish. One of the senior counselors, who had silently observed the humans' actions with growing respect, turned to the Grand Envoy. "I believe we have much to learn from them, Envoy. Not just about resilience, but about how we too might find meaning in adversity." The Grand Envoy nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "Yes, humanity's strength lies not in what they possess, but in what they share with one another. Perhaps we must rethink our approach. We have always treated survival as a matter of individual endurance, of isolation. But these humans, they show us that true strength is found in unity." The xenopsychologist, feeling a surge of inspiration, added, "I suggest we begin a formal study on human resilience, not just their biology or technology, but their culture, their spirit. There is much we can learn." The Grand Envoy approved this suggestion, nodding. "Agreed, and I believe we should invite the humans to share their knowledge. They have shown us that survival is more than just overcoming obstacles. It is a matter of embracing the journey together." The council members murmured in agreement. They had come to observe an expedition, expecting to witness humanity's limitations. Instead, they had seen an extraordinary display of unity, humor, and strength, a testament to a resilience that could not be engineered or explained by science alone. The council drafted an official message of commendation, recognizing Captain Grant and her team for their remarkable courage and resilience. The message, written with utmost respect, invited humanity to share their philosophy on survival with the Galactic Council. It was an unprecedented honor, a recognition of humanity's unique strength. When the message reached Captain Grant, she read it aloud to her team, her voice filled with pride and a hint of amusement. "Well, folks, looks like we've earned ourselves an intergalactic fan club." Her team cheered, exchanging high fives and laughter. One of her team members, grinning, remarked, "Guess we're official ambassadors of human stubbornness now." Lila laughed, raising her thermos in a final toast. "To humanity, may we continue to surprise the galaxy with our strength, our humor, and our sheer refusal to back down." The council watched this simple celebration with a new understanding, feeling a sense of gratitude and admiration for the humans who had shown them a different way of facing life's challenges. As the humans prepared to depart from Carthox 9, the council members were left with a profound realization. Humanity's strength was not something that could be measured by traditional means. It was an indomitable spirit, a willingness to embrace the unknown, and a sense of unity that transcended the individual. For the first time in its history, the Galactic Council began to revise its protocols, not by enhancing technology, but by encouraging a sense of community and shared purpose among its members. Inspired by humanity, they resolved to view survival not as a solitary struggle, but as a journey to be faced together. And so, humanity's journey on Carthox 9 became legendary, a story shared across galaxies, inspiring countless beings to face their own challenges with newfound courage. The humans had brought more than just themselves to this mission. They had brought a gift, a reminder that resilience, above all, is rooted in the heart. Months after the human team's triumphant return from Carthox 9, the story of their adventure continued to echo throughout the Galactic Council's network. Reports, recordings, and first-hand accounts circulated, reaching distant corners of the galaxy. Everywhere, beings spoke of the humans who had braved an uninhabitable world with little more than basic supplies, camaraderie, and an inexplicable joy in facing the impossible. Inspired by humanity's actions, the Council took unprecedented steps. They introduced new protocols that emphasized teamwork and unity, shifting away from the rigid individualistic survival strategies that had dominated for centuries. These new guidelines, influenced by human values, encouraged species across the galaxy to face adversity together, to find strength in shared experiences rather than isolated endurance. The Grand Envoy, a figure previously known for his calm detachment, had himself undergone a transformation. He now viewed his role not only as a leader, but as a facilitator of connection between the diverse species within the Council. He personally signed off on an invitation for humanity to participate in an interspecies cultural exchange program, an honor that had never been extended before. He hoped that by fostering deeper connections with humans, the Council might learn more about the unique resilience they had witnessed. Back on Earth, Captain Lila Grant and her team received this invitation with equal parts surprise and pride. As they read through the Council's message, they could hardly believe that their camping trip on Carthox 9 had resonated so profoundly with the galaxy's most advanced minds. The invitation spoke of admiration and respect for humanity's strength and spirit, and asked them to share their philosophy of resilience with the galaxy. Lila's team, sitting together in the quiet of an Earth evening, felt a swell of pride. They had faced Carthox 9 as explorers, prepared for hardship, but they hadn't expected to change the galaxy's perspective on resilience. With a grin, Lila raised her glass. To the galaxy's bravest campers. Looks like we've started a revolution, folks. Her team laughed, and they clinked glasses, their spirits as high as they had been on Carthox 9. They knew that what they'd done was more than just a mission. They had shared with the galaxy a piece of what it meant to be human, to laugh in the face of danger, to find strength in each other, and to never, ever give up. From that moment on, humanity's legend grew. Across the stars, alien beings retold the story of the humans who had braved Carthox 9 with nothing but tents and laughter. The Council's records even included a new entry, a recommendation that any species embarking on a high-risk mission consider bringing humans along as advisors, not just for their resourcefulness, but for their indomitable spirit. And thus, in the official records of the Galactic Council, a new directive was quietly added. In times of great difficulty, consult humanity, for where there is a human, there is hope. As the humans prepared for their next mission, they carried with them the knowledge that they were no longer alone in their journey. They had allies now, friends and admirers scattered across the galaxy who saw them not just as another species, but as a beacon of resilience and courage. For the humans, every challenge was a new adventure. And now, they knew, the galaxy watched in awe, eager to learn from those who had faced the impossible, and laughed.